was gone, but like that happens. But I mean, I can't understand a community, like a religious community that, you know, like they're supposed to be better than us. Like, how can you beat, and how can people look at this beating going on? And how long, like, we only heard about this beating just because it came out in the coroner's report. But like, did this happen, had this been happening for the last lot of years? Like Martin was very quick to say, but he said to me, but she was no slouch at putting in the boot. And
she gave as good as she got.
As good as she got. And like Martin Smith is 6 foot something and a big man, and Margaret was about 5 foot 5 or 6. But like my reason, or I think our reason, is just not, like, there are questions that need to be answered. We don't know them. And if we don't raise something, it's gone.
The inquest returned a verdict of death by hanging and said the bruising had nothing to do with Margaret Foley-Smith's death. Since the inquest, the Pilgrim community have attempted to suppress all publicity about it and tried to stop the Foley family from airing their concerns. A member of the community made approaches to the local journalists who covered the inquest.
Basically, he didn't want anything at all written. Basically, it was on the basis really of how he didn't feel it was a matter of public interest. He said he described it as a private tragedy and a private grief, which we can accept. But at the same time, it's the fact that the community care for special needs people, that it's part funded by the Eastern Health Board and things with public money, we felt it was a matter of public interest, and therefore we'd have to go ahead and cover it. Now, at that point, he accepted that, but he still disputed our right to cover it in depth, or in whatever depth we felt appropriate ourselves, and pleaded basically that it should be covered in just 3 lines, along the lines of how an inquest took place in Galway last week, death was recalled and a verdict was returned.
He made a trip to our head office, the newspaper's head office in Enniscorthy, and spoke with members of management there, putting the same case to them there, that he was very unhappy at the idea of a report appearing on the inquest because of the suffering it would entail for his children.
It's this paranoid sense that everybody is out to get them, and that is manifest in the way in which, for instance, up to me giving this interview, I came under very extreme pressure to not take part. And nearly every member of my committee, some of them received personal visits which were not welcomed. So that seems a very strange way to conduct one's affairs, as if there's something to hide.
In the course of researching this programme, we have spoken to people who have lived in the Pilgrim community. Despite our best efforts, we have been unable to persuade them to speak to us on the record, regardless of whether their experience was positive or negative. We have made numerous attempts to secure an interview with the community itself. They have effectively declined to participate in the programme, citing their view that our approach was invasive of their privacy and unfair. Gerald, they objected to you talking to people about your concerns.
Yes. Like, it's one thing I've seen since we got involved with the community, or since Margaret died. Like, I felt they want to control everything. If you say something they don't agree with, like, I had a couple of calls from Martin complaining about Frank, a couple of words that he said, and it was roaring at me and saying he had to be stopped, and I was now the senior member of the family since Margaret died, and I had to stop him. So we had words and that, and but I got this, I got this bullying, shouting and roaring at me and bullying, and if I jumped, but anyway, I told him not to, like, that I wouldn't be bullied. But in the last, like, the next one I got a letter from Martin, basically, like, I'd consider it a threat, or I'd even consider it blackmail, that he was going to reveal some deep, dark secret that Margaret had told him about her life in Monaghan. And if I didn't stop making any inquiries or making any, like, having publicity or checking it, that he was going to be forced to reveal this deep, dark secret. So Like blackmail.
Do you have the letter, Gerald?
I do. Yes.
Could I see it?
You could.
What did it do to you to get a letter like that?
Well, it just... Like, I think anyone that knows us, we're the kind of family, like we're not going to be blackmailed. Like, it kind of, like, that's, some of the reason why I'm here tonight is because if I don't keep going, it just makes them think that bullying has worked. And, like, they won't bully us without a fight anyway.
Obviously, the Foley family went through a process. There's not a Foley viewpoint. There is like, I think there may be 5 family members there, and each one of them has a nuance and a difference of expression. And I think that it took them a bit of time to get the courage up to go the distance. But I fully respect and I admire the willingness that they've taken to step up into the public arena. It's not easy, especially when you've lost your sister, to do what they've done. And I think that it has the beneficial effect, even though the other family members who are silent at the moment, it can possibly give them the strength to carry on, even though they might even initially be anti everything that the Foley family are doing. I believe that in the long term it'll have the beneficial effect of opening the doors up, because if this doesn't resolve itself, then there are issues that are still lying dormant within that community, and they won't go away.
I think we're the only ones who can ask questions, because in a sense we've nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Margaret's dead.
What do you mean by that, Berna? Have other families expressed concern to you?
Well, I'd say I can't speak for any other families, but I know other families have been hurt by their families' involvement in the community. If Margaret wasn't dead, and I felt that by raising questions about it I stood the chance of losing any chance of getting her back or getting on good terms with her, I don't think I'd speak either. And I think if maybe we felt that this was just about Margaret, that there was an issue that concerned us and concerned the community, and maybe that it had been a particular problem just concerning Margaret, we might have said, well, okay. But in speaking about it, and we have, as to whether we would do something or not, I'd say we would do it for other families.
A group that tries to stop publication of information must raise serious questions to anyone. I mean, I can understand people wanting to be discreet in the context of a suicide where there is a very painful event for a family member, but the question around it raises questions about the nature of the community, not just about the individual concerned, because it's a failure of a community, not just a failure of an individual in committing suicide. This community needs outside pastoral help, and it seems that it has been not willing to lay its ministry at the feet of the Archdiocese.